You got a headache? There's a pill for it. You want to feel up? Go to the neighborhood doctor. A cold, Monday morning blues, pills to make you focus more, and even pills for your kids to control their behavior. Pharmaceuticals are controlling people's lives and making a killing in profits. Hi, I'm Kavitar Vai, and this is Economic Divide's look at Big Pharma, the legal killers with a healthy addictive promise. Big Pharma, profits at the expense of people's lives.
One of our largest holdings is Gilead Securities, and what we like about the company is that it is like a pharma company, but with higher growth.
Not interested in cures, but maintenance.
The pharmaceutical industry is not in the business of health and healing. That's not why they are manufacturing drugs.
The original pill was created sometime back in 140 BC for sore eyes. Today, just for the very same sore eyes, you could probably take a variety of medication if there are no side effects. But throughout time, pharmaceuticals have grown so much in size and power and profits that it is hard to distinguish whether they are in it to cure us or to have us keep going back, the relief temporary and short-lived.
There's no such thing as a safe drug. By the time a drug's approved and it hits the general population, we don't know even 50% of the side effects that are involved with that drug. We were being trained to misinform people.
I could not begin to tell you where these feelings of low self-esteem emanated from. There were no instances that I could recall. There were no events. It was just this thing, and the more I shared it, the more I realized how prevalent it is in our society, that people are fighting these demons constantly, left and right. I mean, you know, ask Big Pharma. It's like everybody's on something.
That's like a nightmare coming true for people who are sick, that pharmaceutical companies are out to maintain sickness so that they can reap big profits. So they can continuously make profits by not actually healing people, but maintaining their sickness. But that is just one aspect of what these big pharma companies are doing.
One of the things that we examine in our film, both American Addict and American Addict 2, The Big Lie, is this culture of addiction.
The movie that SASHA KNEZEV is referring to is American Addict and its sequel. Their website says that it unveils how America has gone from the land of the free to the land of the addicted, that it represents 5% of the world's population, but consumes 50% of the world's prescription pills and over 80% of the world's prescription narcotics. This is not a coincidence.
I'm an American addict. Right now, pharmaceutical companies are in control.
And it's the lawyer's fault, okay? It's the lawyer's fault. We invented corporations. We didn't give it a conscience. We didn't give it a soul. You can't put it in jail.
This is a criminal act on the part of a company.
Their marketing is ingenious. It is so illegal, it makes the Colombian cartel look like child's play. I'm an American addict.
Relationships between the FDA, Big Pharma, physicians, and the media are in place to ensure that medical problems are treated primarily with pills. The horrific consequences that results from this practice results in overuse, abuse, and unnecessary deaths.
The ultimate goal of the pharmaceutical industry is to sell the most drugs and get the most people on it. That's where you get these blockbuster drugs.
So you take cocaine, heroin, and all of those illegal narcotics, combine them all together, and there are still more people that die from prescription pain medications than all of those. Well, why is that?
Addiction is a dependency where the individual doesn't assume responsibility for himself.
Pharmaceutical companies get patents on their drugs, and they get patents on the most expensive drugs. They want to hold on to these patents as long as they can.
Michael. Mike. So how you doing, man?
Why is it that as Americans we have this culture of addiction? And I think it's really embedded in our lifestyle. We live such a rapid, fast-paced lifestyle that everything is based on proficiency, efficiency, and bottom line.
You can't sit down to TV at night and not see a half a dozen drug company commercials.
Millions of Americans watch the ads and then ask their doctors for prescriptions.
Increasingly now, I think particularly since 2008 with the economic situation as it is, which is pretty dire here in the United States, that people are working longer hours, people are just struggling to make ends meet, and they're looking for some type of escapism. And it's much easier to get that through prescription medication than it is for illegal narcotics.
The look at the global spending on medicines helps us better understand the pattern of purchases from when the financial crisis hit. From 2007 to 2012, global spending skyrocketed from $731 billion to $965 billion in the course of 5 years, an increase of $234 billion. But then from 2012 to 2017, global purchases increased by $152 billion only, even though 3 of those years were speculated.
With the medication aspect of it, it's much easier to get it from a doctor, and if a doctor does prescribe it to you, there's some sensibility that, well, this isn't, how can this be bad? My doctor's giving it to me. So they look at it, most Americans look at it as, well, I don't think maybe that I am addicted because my doctor prescribed this to me. And we have this connotation of a doctor giving us something that it must be okay. And that's a completely backward approach to looking at this.
It may be a backwards approach, but the general public, the consumer, is sold on it. Why are they so sold on it, though? The marketing companies have this figured out, and it is exactly what guest SASHA KNEZEV has said. If the instruction/prescription/advice comes from the doctor, then it must make it okay. Since most people trust their doctors, and nowhere is this vividly displayed than in the ads for different medications in the United States. One entity not discussed here is the United States FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. They should be safeguarding Americans against what their name says, food and drugs.
The FDA is being infiltrated by many of these multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical corporations. It's actually a pharmacological complex, much like the military-industrial complex, but we look at it from an economic perspective. The pharmaceutical companies took over from the tobacco companies, and they are now the most powerful lobby. And I'm talking from a business standpoint, from a business sense. They are the most powerful lobby in the United States, hand down. They pretty much, took over and wiped out the tobacco company, and now they run the show. So when you look at an entity like the FDA, a state institution that's there for us as a public, we pay for it with our tax dollars. And the intent and the purpose of the FDA is to bring safety to food, medication, pretty much anything that we put in our mouth or we consume. Now, the problem is that these directors of the FDA that are supposedly serving our interests and trying to approve these medications that are making it into Main Street are almost all the time working for the pharmaceutical companies. It's sort of a backdoor strategy where they go work for the FDA, and as soon as they leave, they go work for a pharmaceutical company.
This is how far the U.S. government has come. They've acknowledged that there is a problem, just the same way that they have been fighting illegal drugs, a battle they have not won.
When confronting the problem of substance abuse, it makes sense to focus attention on the most dangerous types of drugs. And right now, fewer substances are more lethal than prescription opiates and heroin.
Eric Holder acknowledges that there is a problem. Notice the choice of words while he is reading from the teleprompter. He calls it substance abuse, putting the blame on the abuser, not the doctor prescribing it. He has put prescription opiates and heroin in the same category, while one is legally prescribed and the other is illegal completely.
Now, it's clear that opiate addiction is an urgent and growing public health crisis. And that's why Justice Department officials, including the DEA, and other key federal, state, and local leaders are fighting back very aggressively. Confronting this crisis will require a combination of enforcement as well as treatment. The Justice Department is committed to both.
But the problem with prescription drug abuse lies first with the pharmaceutical companies, then with the doctors. That's who the DEA and law enforcement should target. But like the fight against illegal drugs, the U.S. government has failed, or they have chosen to maintain the problem. Children being targeted by pharmaceuticals, generic drug companies with the help of big pharma, targeting doctors in third world countries. Just some of the abuses not covered in this edition of the program, along with its economic impact, since time did not allow it. But please send us your comments and suggestions to the links below. I'm Kaveh Tarwai, and I'll see you next week.